Hello there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a card that I'm super excited about. I had an idea in my head for this card and using different products, and so I just wanted to see how this would work out, and I gotta be honest, I love the end result. So let's get started with what we're doing. I have a piece of, this is a stone gray cardstock from My Favorite Things, and I'm just going to tape this down with some washi tape to a Simon Says stamp stencil. You could use any stencil you have. I'm going to use a palette knife, and yes, I am using some Nuvo Dream Drops, and I'm going to spread this like butter. Honestly, that's all you got to do. Spread it like you're spreading butter on toast or jam on toast. And I'm doing it really, really thin because I have no idea how this is going to work out, how it's going to dry, any of that. I'm just sticking it on spots on the stencil, not right through onto the cardstock, but just parts on the stencil, and then I can move that around with my Ranger palette knife. And like I said, I've had this thought in my head for a while because those are pretty big bottles, and I know I'm obsessed with them and I could use them like crazy, and I do, but I wanted to see how these would work just with a stencil. And I figured they would work pretty well, and to be honest, they work beautifully. So these Nuvo Dream Drops look so good on white cardstock, and they look so good on dark cardstock. They look totally different, in fact. So I went and wiped or cleaned off my stencil under some water, and it cleaned up pretty nicely. I'm using a heavyweight card base, and I had cut that down to 4¼ by 11 inches and then scored it at 5½ inches. And now I'm going to get ready to do some stamping and die cutting. I'm using the My Favorite Things Grateful For You combo, and I'll have everything listed down below that I used. And I'm also going to do some glitter. As if there wasn't enough shine and shimmer all over that card panel, I am going to cut out the Grateful die using my Sizzix Sidekick. I'll just run that through. I went through all the colors of glitter cardstock that I had, and I thought that pink matched pretty nicely. I thought it was really pretty. And so I'll just run that through. And I'm also going to take some more of that stone gray cardstock, and I'm going to run the Grateful die over those 3 more times. I want this Grateful to stand out pretty well, since I didn't, really there isn't a lot in the way of embellishment on this background, and there really isn't a lot of stamping. So I wanted my Grateful die to look basically like chipboard. So I've run it through 3 total times. And then I'm going to get ready to stack those on top of each other. I'm going to keep one of them inside the cardstock, thinking that might really help, but this is a fairly sturdy die anyway, so it isn't really necessary to do this, but all I'm doing is poking out the extra pieces, you know, the circles from the G and the A and, you know, the other pieces. I'm just poking those out, and I'll poke them out of the other ones as well. And then I'm going to use I'm using a paper piercer to do that. And then I'm just going to use my reverse tweezers to hold this so that I can put the glue on. This is the best way that I've found to try and keep the integrity of the die itself, or the die cut, and then be able to put some liquid glue on it. I'm just using some Craft Tacky glue, but some Ranger Multimedia Matte would work really well as also. This is what I grabbed. But you don't want to use too much. You just want to put it on the main areas. So I'll stick that inside or on top of the other one, and then I'm going to get the other one ready to go as well and do the exact same thing. And then I'll move on to the glitter piece. So I've taken that out of the negative space, and now I'm just going to adhere this, doing the exact same thing, just right over the top. And the reason I chose the stone gray instead of like a white is because I wanted it to blend into the background a little bit and almost look like it's coming out from the background. And if I had used white, it really would have stood out, and I didn't want it to stand out that much. So that way when you look at the sides, it looks like it's all cohesive with that back panel. And now I'll get ready to stamp out my sentiment on the inside. So there are some really great sentiments on this stamp set, and I love that a simple thank you with a lot of heart. And then I'll kind of test out. This was the part I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how quickly it would take to dry, and it honestly didn't take that long, but to speed up the process, I did use my heat tool. Now, keeping in mind, I spread this very thin, because as you know, Nuvo drops, when you do them as drops, they say that it takes about 24 hours for those to fully dry. Those are usually a little thicker than what I did here, but this was dry enough to the touch, and I wasn't planning to stick anything on top of it other than the grateful and one other little sentiment, and that would have been underneath, so it really wouldn't matter to me. So I'll just use my liquid glue and adhere that down to that card base. And then I will start looking at my other sentiments because I knew I wanted a little something else. And I love how that looks together. So I'll stamp out "for you" is what I'm stamping, and then I will trim that down using my paper trimmer and make it nice and small. And then I will start adhering everything just using that same liquid glue. There was no need for foam tape on this. I figured the fact that the grateful was stacked up 4 times was probably plenty. I will say, now that I look back, I wish that I had probably put maybe some pink gems or sequins on there, and I can always go back and do that. But I really wanted the star of the show to be that Nuvo Dream Drop background. And that's the color Supernova, but all of them would look so beautiful on there. So I will link those down below. And that's going to finish off this card. So if you liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And leave a comment down below telling me what you think of this. Have you tried it before? Do you want to try it now? I would love to hear what you have to say. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by.